James Construction Group, JCG, is a full-service general contractor providing safe and high-quality construction to the public, private, and commercial industry. Our services include site preparation and development, roadway construction, civil, mechanical, and environmental services. We consider employee safety and health our most important value. As a result, we are committed to a safety policy with the firm belief that all accidents and injuries are preventable. We are dedicated to the objective of ensuring that all employees have a place to work that is free from recognized workplace hazards that could cause injury or illness. However, a company can do just so much towards your safety. The rest is your responsibility. Everyone must want to learn and practice safe work habits in order to achieve a safe workplace. To successfully and safely complete your job, you must think and plan each task that you undertake. Safety awareness and safe behavior doesn't come by instinct. They must be deliberately learned and practiced, and this is everyone's responsibility. This orientation is designed to provide the basic information on JCG's accident prevention program and safety standards. We will cover safety rules, procedures, and precautions to be taken during your employment at JCG. The primary focus of our safety program is the identification and correction of unsafe conditions, thereby preventing or reducing accidents, personal injury, and property damage. The possession, use, or sale of illegal drugs and/or unauthorized alcohol beverages is against company rules and policies. Being in possession of or being under the influence of alcohol or any mind-altering or controlled substance while on duty will be cause for immediate dismissal. As a condition of employment, employees are required to submit to a pre-employment drug screen and/or alcohol testing. Employees are also subject to random, for-cause, and post-accident testing as required by the company's drug and alcohol policy. Violations of this policy or refusal to submit to a screening test or search will be cause for termination of employment. As stated in the JCG's Commitment to Safety Statement, we believe in two fundamental principles of safety. All accidents, injuries, and occupational illnesses are preventable, and if a task cannot be performed safely, we will not perform it. It is up to each employee to commit to these principles. Safety shall take precedence over expediency or shortcuts. It is a condition of employment that all employees work safely by following the established safety rules and procedures. The foundation for a positive attitude is understanding and implementing safe construction practices. Most accidents happen when employees fail to plan their work, take unnecessary risk, or fail to get the needed information to perform the job properly and safely. As we proceed through this orientation, keep in mind that this is an overview of our safety program and safety standards. More in-depth training will be required for many of the tasks that you may be required to perform during your employment with our company. All injuries, occupational illnesses, vehicle accidents, property damage incidents, near misses, or any incident with potential for personal injury must be reported to your supervisor immediately. Each incident will be investigated and appropriate corrective measures will be taken to prevent the recurrence and to ensure continuous safety improvement for the workplace. All work-related injuries, regardless of how minor, must be reported to the employee's supervisor immediately upon occurrence. Project personnel are trained in basic first aid and CPR techniques. These personnel, with advice from the safety department, will make a determination on the medical status of the individual and bring that person to an appropriate medical facility for treatment. It is important that you understand that our concern is for your health and safety, and we want to prevent minor injuries from becoming serious. Also, quick response to soft tissue injuries such as back strains has proven to be the most effective treatment plan. Employees who refuse to report injuries or participate in fraudulent activities will be disciplined accordingly, up to and including termination. A near miss is an unexpected event which disrupts the normal work routine and has the potential to cause harm to personnel and property. A near miss or close call is a warning that something requires attention. Therefore, near-miss incidents must be reported to prevent accidents. Chemical hazards can be one of the most serious yet common hazards on a construction worksite. Whenever hazardous materials are present on the job site, you will need to be made aware of these materials and methods for protection from exposure to them. This will be accomplished by communicating this information through a program called the Hazard Communication Program, or HAZCOM as it's commonly known. They are labels on containers, material safety data sheets, and training. Labels provide the basic information about hazardous chemicals and how to handle them, but do not necessarily include all the information you need to know for safe handling. The MSDS is the one document that gives you all the information you need for your protection and safe handling of hazardous materials. MSDSs include information on the product such as identity and characteristics, health and physical hazards, signs of overexposure, type of PPE required, spill containment and disposal methods. Material safety data sheets are located in the job site office or in your supervisor's vehicle on projects without an office, and are always accessible to anyone on the job site. Training on chemical hazards should take place as a part of your site orientation, weekly safety meetings, and prior to using a chemical that you are unfamiliar with. The backbone of any safety program is communication and training. You will receive training during safety meetings and task-specific training. Information about new hazards and how to safely deal with them is also dispensed during safety meetings. Each employee is required to attend the weekly safety meetings, and everyone is encouraged to participate in the discussion. Task planning is a critical, proactive approach to accident prevention. Planning can be done as an informal mental checklist before you start to work, or it can be a formal, step-by-step job hazard analysis or STAR card. The STAR card is a planning tool that is performed by the supervisor and work group assigned to a particular task. The plan addresses the hazards that may be encountered and ways to eliminate those hazards. When hazards cannot be eliminated, the STAR card specifies the proper personal protective equipment used for protection. You will find there are numerous governmental agencies and company-sponsored rules and regulations that you will be required to follow. Failure to comply with safety rules and regulations could result in disciplinary actions up to and including termination. We've developed a 3-step disciplinary action policy for safety-related violations. Depending on the severity of the violation or infraction, some steps may be omitted or may be repeated. These steps are: documented oral warning or reprimand, a written description or verbal communication to the employee who violated a rule or committed an unsafe act. Written reprimand. This report documents the violation, states the required corrective action, and consequences if no improvement is made. Termination. Loss of employment. Any act of complete disregard for safety shall be grounds for termination immediately. Only clothing that is suitable for work and weather will be worn on the worksite. Torn or loose clothing is prohibited. Shirts must have sleeves at least 4 inches long. Tank tops, sandals, tennis shoes, and shorts are prohibited. The proper PPE must be worn at all times while working for JCG. The following are the minimum PPE requirements. Hard hats. ANSI-approved hard hats will be worn at all times on any worksite. Painting, drilling holes in the hat, or alteration of the suspension is not permitted. Hard hats will be worn with the bill pointing forward unless attached to a welding hood. Safety glasses. ANSI-approved safety glasses with rigid side shields must also be worn at all times on a job site. Prescription eyeglasses must also conform to the ANSI standard for impact resistance and have rigid side shields. If prescription glasses are not ANSI approved, the wearer must utilize approved over glasses. Select the appropriate protection for the specific hazard present. Additional eye protection, a face shield or goggles, must always be used when the potential for eye injuries are severe. Some equipment types that may produce severe eye injury are skill saws, grinders, wire wheels, and chippers. Hearing protection. Excessive loud noises can produce progressive hearing loss. Therefore, hearing protection will be provided and used at any time in a posted high noise work area or where the noise level exceeds 85 decibels time-weighted average. You will receive specific training in the proper selection, use, and maintenance of hearing protection equipment. Safety footwear. On a work site, there is an abundant potential for foot injuries. For protection from these injuries, employees must wear approved leather footwear. ANSI-approved safety toe boots will be worn whenever it is a job requirement. For added safety on the job site, it is recommended that all employees wear safety-toed boots. Hand protection. The use of gloves is required when handling rough materials, chemicals, and hot or cold objects. Leather palm gloves must be worn when handling materials that could damage the hands. When handling chemicals, rubber gloves shall be used instead of leather palm gloves. The proper glove material must be selected to afford adequate chemical protection from skin absorption. Special protective equipment. Specific equipment may be required for protection when performing certain tasks. Shin, metatarsal, and instep guards must be worn when operating equipment such as jackhammers and tampers that could injure legs, ankles, and feet. Chainsaw chaps must be worn for leg and skin protection whenever operating a chainsaw. All equipment must be kept in good operating condition. Inspect equipment before use and report defects to your supervisor. Fall prevention is a barrier designed to prevent falling to a lower level surface. Prevention must always be our first line of defense from falls. The following are the most common fall prevention safeguards: guardrails, hole covers, perimeter guards. When all methods of preventing falls have been exhausted, personal fall protection systems must be used. Fall protection is required when working on an unprotected elevation of 6 feet or more. Personal fall protection is a method of protecting a person from injuries should a fall occur. When riding or working inside a personnel basket or aerial lift platform, the use of fall protection is required even when standard guardrails are present. 100% fall protection is always required while working in areas where fall protection is required. 100% fall protection is achieved by utilizing 2 shock-absorbing lanyards, one lanyard being attached to an anchor point at all times, and requires the following equipment: full body safety harness, double lanyards with deceleration device, lifelines and anchor points. Working on our roads and highways is one of the most dangerous occupations in the country. Therefore, a written traffic control plan was developed addressing procedures to minimize this hazard. The following procedures, when applied, will greatly enhance your safety and minimize the chances for accidents. For your protection, you must be seen by the motorist or equipment operator. Therefore, a bright fluorescent colored vest or shirt, visible from at least 1,000 feet, will be worn. If working as a flagger, never stand directly in front of or turn your back towards oncoming traffic. Have an escape route planned in case of an emergency. Establish a prearranged signal to warn others in case of an emergency. Never leave your position unattended. Wait for a replacement. A shirt will be worn under the safety vest at all times. Traffic signs must be kept clean and warning lights working at all times. All signs that are not needed must be removed. Housekeeping must be a continuous, ongoing process. Approved extension cords must be used in a manner that will not cause a trip hazard. Extension cords should never be run across a road or driveway, ladders, or on stairways. Pick up any trash that you may generate in the performance of your job. A clean work area promotes a safe workplace. Do not discard any lumber with protruding nails. Remove or bend nails back. Be proud of your work area. Keep it clean. Slips, trips, and falls are a common source of injuries on a work site. You should correct tripping hazards immediately if possible, or report them to your supervisor. To minimize tripping hazards, keep stairways, aisles, and ramps clear of debris, tools, extension cords, and materials. Clean up spills and leaks promptly to avoid slippery conditions. Any fire can develop into a life-threatening situation in seconds. Give special attention to sources of ignition or fuel. Sources include smoking, welding, cutting, use of solvents, refueling equipment, use of heaters, and disposal of oily or greasy rags. All of these, under the right circumstances, are able to catch fire and burn readily. Be sure to have a fire extinguisher in the vicinity where the potential for fire exists. Only approved containers and tanks shall be used for the storage and handling of flammable or combustible liquids. Portable gas cans must be stored at least 25 feet from a building or structure. To ensure proper handling, maintain correct labeling on the contents of all portable gas cans. Take prompt action if a fire should occur. Assess the fire, and if the fire can be controlled with an extinguisher, do so. Use the PASS procedure to help you remember the correct way to use an extinguisher. Pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the trigger, and sweep the extinguisher from side to side. If the fire is too large to handle, call the fire department for assistance. Do not take chances. Your daily task will involve moving materials, equipment, and tools. Be alert of the possibility that your hands and feet may be exposed to pinch points and protect yourself accordingly. Know the approximate weight of the object to be lifted. If it's too heavy or bulky for one person to handle, get help. Whenever lifting material, make certain that you squat and lift the load with your legs, keeping the back straight and avoid twisting. When heavy equipment such as a crane or extended reach forklift is used to move material, only trained and authorized operators will be allowed to operate the equipment. Always use the proper tool for the task you will be performing. Hand and power tools must be inspected before each use. Do not operate an unsafe tool. Report any defects to your supervisor and remove the tool from service. The use of makeshift devices or defective tools is strictly prohibited. Guards and secondary handles must be installed and utilized for your protection. A ground fault circuit interrupter must be used with all extension cords and installed at the power source. Before operating any piece of equipment, a daily heavy equipment inspection must be performed. Once the checklist is completed, only JCG authorized equipment operators will be allowed to operate the equipment. Heavy equipment will be operated in a safe and professional manner. Seatbelts shall be worn when operating machines equipped with rollover protection. Backup alarms and horns shall be maintained in working order at all times. Whenever approaching heavy equipment, make eye contact with the operator and communicate your intention. Proceed only after receiving acknowledgement from the operator. 3 points of bodily contact must be maintained when mounting and dismounting equipment. Never jump from a truck or heavy equipment. Broken or sprained ankles may result. On work sites, you will notice an array of warning signs, posters, tags, and barricaded areas. You will be required to comply with these warnings and barricades. A yellow barricade is used to warn of an existing hazard that could cause injury. You may proceed with caution. A red barricade warns of a high hazard area where something may pose an immediate danger to life and health. Cross a red barricade only after gaining permission from the party that erected it. The party that creates the hazard is responsible for erecting and maintaining barricades around them. Barricades should be removed upon completion of the task or whenever the hazard ceases to exist. All hazardous chemical products, flammable materials, and compressed gas cylinders must be stored in their proper places at all times. Compressed gas cylinders must be stored in the upright position with protective caps in place and secured with a non-flammable material to prevent tipping over. Oxygen cylinders will be stored at least 20 feet from fuel gas cylinders or must be separated by a wall capable of resisting a fire for at least 1 hour. When transporting compressed gas cylinders on the worksite, the regulators and gauges shall be removed and the protective caps must be securely in place. When in use, compressed gas cylinders must be securely fastened in the upright position with reverse flow check valves at the regulators and also at the torch end. These regulators must be in good working order with all parts in place. Ladders are used to gain access to work areas that usually cannot be reached from ground level. Serious injuries are caused by the improper use of ladders. It is important that you know how to use a ladder properly. All portable ladders shall be inspected for damage before each use. Damaged ladders must be immediately tagged and removed from service. Make sure ladders are in good repair with feet set firmly on an even base. Extension ladders must extend 36 inches above the landing and must be tied off to prevent movement. Do not paint ladders. The paint could hide cracks or damage. Ladders shall be used with the base 1 foot from the base of the vertical support for every 4 feet in elevation, a ratio of 4 to 1. Never reach over an arm's length beyond the side rails of the ladder. Step ladders are to be used strictly as self-supporting and not as an extension ladder. Make sure the step ladder is fully extended and the spreaders in the locked position before climbing. Never climb, sit, or stand on the top 2 steps of a step ladder. Air hoses are used to provide compressed air from a compressor to power tools or equipment. Always place a retainer pin in the hose coupler to prevent accidental disconnects. Install whip checks in case of accidental hose rupture. Do not attempt to disconnect an air hose until all the pressure has been bled off the line. Never use more than 30 psi when cleaning tools or equipment. Never use air pressure to clean the clothing on yourself or others. Only employees who have been trained and certified in scaffold erection are allowed to erect or modify scaffolds. All scaffolds will be erected in accordance with OSHA regulations and shall be tagged and inspected daily by a competent person before use. Untagged and/or red tag scaffolds should not be used. All employees who are required to work out of scaffolds will be trained by a competent person to recognize the hazards associated with working on scaffolds. Unless specifically trained, employees are prohibited from removing or disturbing materials that may contain asbestos. Asbestos can be found in insulation, roofing and siding materials, and floor tiles. Before any insulation is removed, it must be determined to be free of asbestos. If an employee suspects a material to contain asbestos, he or she must report their suspicion to their supervisor immediately. When working around electrical wires, treat them as if they are fully energized. Use extreme caution when working with heavy equipment in the vicinity of overhead power lines. Cranes are required to maintain a minimum 10-foot distance from power lines. Voltages greater than 50,000 volts require a greater distance. Whenever performing work on a machine or equipment, injury or death could result from the unexpected startup of that equipment. For the prevention of such incidents, the lockout or tagout procedure will apply. A lockout is a procedure used to positively prevent an unexpected startup of machinery when work, repairs, or maintenance is being performed. The placement of a lock or an energy isolating device will ensure the equipment being controlled cannot be operated until the locking device is removed. When an energy isolating device cannot be used, a tagout procedure will be utilized. The tag indicates the equipment being controlled must not be operated until the tagout device is removed by the installer or another authorized person. Any employee who operates a valve, switch, device, or piece of equipment where a tagout device is attached or removes such a tag without authorization will be terminated immediately. A confined space is defined as a space that is large enough and so configured that an employee can enter and work, has the potential for a hazardous atmosphere, has limited or restricted means of entry and exit, and is not designed for continuous worker occupancy. Examples of confined spaces include trenches, tanks, elevator shafts, and manholes. Working safely in confined spaces is a serious issue. Workers may be injured or die from suffocation or toxic atmosphere associated with working in confined spaces. The entrant, the employee required to work in a confined space, and the attendant, or hole watch, are required to receive appropriate training before engaging in such task. Your supervisor or the safety department representative will determine the classification and safety precautions to use for your protection. Client policy may apply in cases when Class II permits are not recognized by general industry. Only people that have been properly trained are permitted to enter confined spaces. Unless you have received the permit required confined space training, do not enter a confined space. Excavations and trenches. An excavation is any man-made cut, cavity, trench, or depression in the Earth's surface. These activities produce soil conditions that could present cave-in hazards. Hazards associated with excavations and trenches are hazardous atmosphere, wall failure or entrapment, engulfment, falls, contact with underground utilities, confined space. Excavation sidewalls must be sloped back, benched, or shored to prevent wall failure. Each excavation shall be designed so that workers have a means to enter and exit in a safe manner within 25 feet of the work area. When a ladder is used for that purpose, it must be secured to prevent movement. Excavations 4 feet or more in depth shall not be entered until it has been inspected by a competent person and been determined safe for entry. The excavation must be inspected before commencement of activities, and also after a rainstorm or as needed. Excavated material and heavy equipment must be kept at least 2 feet from the edge of the trench. You should never enter a trench or an excavation that has not been inspected by a competent person. Smoking is allowed only in designated areas. These areas are clearly marked and should have cigarette butt receptacles and a fire extinguisher readily available. Smoking is never allowed in a project building or near flammable materials. Our company is committed to providing a work environment that is free of discrimination, unlawful harassment, and improper behavior. Action, words, or comments based on one's sex, race, age, and religion will not be tolerated. Gambling, fighting, horseplay, threatening employees, or the possession of firearms or other weapons on the job site is also considered improper behavior. Any unlawful form of behavior is strictly prohibited and may be cause for immediate dismissal. Cell phones are valuable tools allowing us to communicate and keep up to date with current affairs. However, talking on the cell phone while performing duties or driving can be very distracting and create unsafe conditions. The use of cell phones is not allowed on the worksite unless to conduct authorized company business. The use of cell phones on the worksite while driving a company vehicle or operating heavy equipment is strictly prohibited. If you must use a cell phone on the worksite, pull over to a safe parking spot and stop. The use of the following items is strictly prohibited without the express consent of JCG management. Personal radios, cameras, and audio recording devices are not allowed in company work locations. Such items cause distractions and are inappropriate for the construction work environment. Cell phones that are equipped with camera options are prohibited on any JCG worksite or office location. Violations of these rules will result in disciplinary action, up to and including termination. Company vehicles will be driven as needed on jobs during working hours. Open alcoholic beverages or illegal drugs are not allowed in company vehicles at any time. Anytime a driver is under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs, he or she shall not be allowed to drive a company vehicle. Only authorized and properly licensed employees of the company are allowed to drive a company vehicle. Seat belts shall be worn when operating company vehicles. Drivers are required to operate the vehicle in a safe manner, following all applicable laws and regulations. Our company gained a reputation of performing work in a responsible and professional manner. As part of a professional image, each employee should strive to present him or herself in a professional manner by dressing appropriately. Good grooming habits and personal cleanliness contribute to the morale of all employees and affect our business image. Acceptable attire for field employees include clean pants, long or short sleeve shirts, including t-shirts. Tank tops or muscle shirts are not acceptable work attire. Work boots are acceptable unless you are working on a site that requires steel-toed boots. Shirts must be worn at all times. Sneakers are not acceptable. Every JCG employee is required to comply with federal occupational safety and health, OSHA standards, rules, and regulations that are applicable to his or her action and conduct. Employees shall use safety equipment, personal protective equipment, and other devices provided or directed by governing agencies, our client, or JCG policy that is necessary for their protection. Report every accident. unsafe practices and conditions, and near misses to his supervisor in a prompt manner. Actively participate in safety meetings. Assist with accident investigations. Have the right to report unsafe and unhealthful conditions to appropriate officials. James Construction Group would like to welcome you, and we hope that your employment with us will be safe, productive, and rewarding.